Aaron O'Toole is a Tory MP for Durham, Ontario, and he's joining us from Ottawa. Thank you for your time.
Good to be here.
Your government opposed Mr. Khadr's release. What do you make of this announcement today?
Well, I think it's outrageous, frankly. The federal government is clearly floating this in the middle of the summer because they know it's going to be controversial. To suggest that Mr. Khadr, who his family's work with al-Qaeda for many years, should then lead to some sort of compensation and apology from the Canadian government, I think is a bad signal to send for someone that took the life of an American soldier, Sergeant Speer. So I think there's a lot of outrage already coming out about this story, and I think it's warranted.
Canada, though, has defended other child soldiers. So what is it about Omar Khadr that makes him different?
Well, I don't consider Omar Khadr a child soldier. He was with his family. So his guardians, his legal guardians, were in the fight with him. They left Canada, the country that had given them refuge and an opportunity to go and fight with al-Qaeda. So he's not like he was a conscript into an army in the traditional sense of a child soldier. This was someone who built IEDs and was involved in a firefight that took the life of Sergeant Speer. That is known. His detention in Guantanamo is controversial, but it was related to his work and his family's work as part of the al-Qaeda terrorist force. So unlike other settlements where Mehar Arar or someone like that was detained in the United States and then sent elsewhere and not treated well, this is someone that was involved directly in terrorist activities. So I think a settlement sends the wrong signal.
So you don't agree with the government's assertion that they were perhaps complicit in the fact that he was being treated in such a terrible way at Guantanamo, tortured and the like, and they did not protect him as a child soldier?
No, you know, Mr. Khadr, at the end of the firefight, the American medics who had just lost their colleague that Mr. Khadr had killed saved his life on the battlefield, and then he was detained. The Guantanamo prison was very controversial. You know, President Obama came into office saying he was going to close it. It's still there, and he's no longer president. So there's a lot of controversy swirling around that. But the role of the Khadr family and Mr. Khadr in their terrorist activities is well known. This isn't like other cases where compensation's been paid for someone who was renditioned or something like that and was innocent. Mr. Khadr was involved in terrorist activities, and that's why the federal government, to take such an unprecedented step and to suggest that they would then pay compensation of $10 million, I think is highly inappropriate. It sends the wrong signal at a time we're trying to combat radicalization and terrorism. They're in some ways compensating him for his role in it.
Lots of strong reaction, as you pointed out, on both sides of this. We have a tweet from Alberta PC leader Jason Kenney, and in that tweet he says that this is, quote, odious. What do you make of that type of language?
I think it's the outrage that we're starting to hear from this. And I know Minister Kenney, when he was a minister in the Conservative government, and I hope he's premier in Alberta soon, but he took public safety and security matters very seriously. The Khadr case, the whole family's involvement in terrorism, is a terrible one. Fortunately, it's very rare. But the very fact that he's now back here, I think, to compensate him for the saga related to their decision to leave Canada to become involved in al-Qaeda sends the wrong signal when we're trying to combat radicalization and counter ideologies that promote terrorism. I just think it sends the wrong signal, and it's being done in the dead of summer while the Prime Minister's out of town. So they're floating this to see if they can do it in the summer, hoping people will forget about it while they're camping and on their holidays.
Minister O'Toole, we're just showing some footage there of Omar Khadr when he spoke to the media. And at that time, he said he wanted people, Canadians, to learn about who he really is, that he was not the person being portrayed by Stephen Harper and your government.
Well, the facts tell the person he is. I think it's a terrible case when the father involved Omar and his brother in this al-Qaeda work they were doing. You know, there's famous photographs of a young Omar making IEDs. Who those devices killed, we'll never know. We do know he was directly involved in the death of Sergeant Christopher Speer. If there's any compensation, I think it should be to the family of Sergeant Speer. You know, he had his life taken by Mr. Khadr. So this isn't a case like the Arar case or others where someone is compensated for being inappropriately sent abroad and mistreated. This is a case where Mr. Khadr and his family were directly involved in terrorism. I think it's terrible. It sends a terrible message to compensate him, knowing full well, and he's admitted parts of his role. I think it's a terrible case we should learn from, not compensate.
Certainly lots of opinions on this today. And Conservative MP Aaron O'Toole, thanks for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you.